This podcast is part of the Zeo to Hero Podcast Network.
If you give a dad a podcast,
you're bloody welcome.
You know.
Hey, Dad.
If I get my hand stuck in a pickle jar, I'm straight up bowling a china shop, just swinging around.
Started writing songs when I was about 12 or so.
Seriously?
They're retrofitting me now.
And I'm like, yes, finally.
I've also had the opportunity to go train with Hoist Gracie and Dan Severin.
Wow.
I like that. That's different. It stands out.
That day I took my very first bump and it was fun.
There's only one section to go to first.
Yeah.
Toys.
Bro.
I was like, no, man, surely this guy's not booked out that long.
I haven't laughed that hard since I was a little girl.
What?
Man, this guy won't shut up.
And just a reminder before we get started here, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to iGadap wherever it is you're listening. Hit that notification bell so you are notified when a new episode drops. Also, make sure that you go out there and rate and review this episode. Tell me what you think of it. And the more people that do that, the more likely I am to be recommended to somebody else. Now, on to the show. All right, everybody. So this one is going to be pretty cool, I think. I've got two guys on here with me today to talk about a comic book that is going to be coming out. I've actually got to read issue 1. They were kind enough to send it over to me, and I'm very excited about issue 2 that will be coming out here soon. They're doing the Kickstarter for it, and I have on with me today Dillon Gilbertson and Jason Piperberg. They are the writer and the artist for My Neighbor Necromancer. Man, how are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing good.
Very tired. We at the time of this recording, we just wrapped Baltimore Con, which was a great time. We got a lot of people in on the Kickstarter. Thanks for everybody at Baltimore, if you're listening, for helping us out with that. Had a long drive back, and so I'm a little exhausted, but I'm being invigorated by being on the podcast. So thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I am, excited to have you guys on here. I think so. It was one of the other guys that I've had on the show that told you about me, and so I was really excited whenever I found that out. I was Andrew who.
Andrew, yeah, Andrew's the coolest. I love Andrew. He's
a really cool dude, and I had them on just recently to talk about their new comic book that's coming out. So, do you guys do a lot of the conventions and stuff though?
No, this was your first one, like what, 10 years, Jason?
Yeah, I haven't tabled in a really long time, and I don't think I've ever done a multi-day show. I think most of the stuff I've done has been like one-day festivals or stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And then I just had so much client work going on for a long time that I just never really fit it in.
Yeah.
And then Dillon was like, "I'm gonna do Baltimore, and you need to do it." And I was like, "Okay." so I did.
That's generally how the scripting works. Like, hey, I wrote this panel, and
right.
You need to do it.
Yeah, but it was good though, because that was the first time that we'd ever actually met in person.
That was very first. That was cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm guessing that's actually a pretty big con there for the Baltimore Con, then, right?
Yeah, it's one of the bigger ones that I've done, at least. The biggest one beside that I did, I tabled at the special edition San Diego Comic-Con in like 2021.
Okay.
But aside from that, I usually do just local stuff. Like I'll do a table at a local one at like a comic shop.
Right.
I did Wicked Con this year. I'm trying to get more involved in it. I have I have stacks and stacks of books and prints and stuff that I've accumulated throughout the years from making all the comics and stuff. And I just need a table to get them in people's hands and hit the streets a little bit.
Right on. I'm fairly new to doing the conventions myself. This was actually this year was the first time I was actually ever invited to one, so that was kind of cool. And I think we've done 5 is what I want to say is that we've been to this year. So it's been really cool. I've got one more coming up this year, and I think that I'm done until February, I think. But I love it. I love the atmosphere. It's so much fun,
the camaraderie and stuff at shows, like it's so cool. Like especially on the indie comic side of the scene, like up in Artist Alley and stuff.
Right.
Everybody's just so supportive of everybody. Like you cruise around, you go to each other's tables, and you just hang out. Yeah, it's a blast. I love it, and that's I mean a selfish side. Part of the reason why I want to do it more is just because I have so much fun actually doing them, and meeting the people who have actually read the books and stuff is always really exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We have a local one. I say it's a local. It's about an hour away from me. That I went to this year, and I liked it so much because they had all of these different artists and writers there in comics. I mean, they had Jeremy Hahn, they had Colin Bunn, they had Phil Hester was there, Buster Moody, Kevin Mellon, Andy Parks was there. You know, they had all kinds of different artists there, and you could like bring your book to them, and they would, you know, tell you work on this, work on that, and it was a small enough con to where it felt like a really tight knit community, and it was just really cool to see all of these different people who are well known in comic books come together and do this show.
Yeah, that sounds rad.
Yeah, I was I got spoiled with that one because I since then I've had all of those except for one that I named on this show. So I mean, it's a really cool one, and I'm glad I'm going to be going back to it this year. Actually, I'm going as a guest this coming year to it.
Which one is that?
It's called ArtCon. It is in Neosho, Missouri. It's this little bitty con that they do at the high school there, but it's so much fun, and it just
nice.
You know, a very tight knit community there, and I just love it.
Yeah. Yeah, the local ones, I mean, I say this to having not a great deal of experience with the bigger ones aside from Baltimore and that special edition one, but
yeah,
there's something special about the local ones. It's
right.
Yeah, it's I don't know, just the grassroots homegrown feel of it. Just I don't know. There's something special about it. I love it.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the last shows I did was in Philly. They used to have this show called Locust Moonfest. It was like a 1-day show, and it was like open to the public, like free admission, I think.
Oh, cool.
Or like very, very low admission.
Yeah.
And like tables were really affordable, and it was just like a bunch of really like, it was usually mostly like local artists. I think they had like some bigger guys, but it was like, it's just like a very small, like tight knit room. It was really cool.
Right. Yeah, I like those kinds. I'm also one of those guys that say it's I like to go to conventions on Sunday because there's less people and I have more time to talk to the guests.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it when it feels like there's less people, you know, and I don't feel as rushed.
Yeah.
And those, so it feels that way with the smaller shows.
Yeah, that used to be, I think, what was great. Preview night used to be like that at San Diego Con way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You show up on preview night, and like a lot of the booths and the tables are still kind of setting up, but everyone's just kind of chill, and like no one's in full on sales mode yet.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just feels like a bunch of people hanging out at a convention, even the exhibitors and stuff. But yeah, in the last few years, like Wednesday is just a short Friday or a short Saturday where everyone's already trying to sell everything. And but yeah, it's I wish it was still like that. I love that. It's like I love the liminal space of it, right? Like if it's a space that you know is always crowded with people, and in fact there aren't quite as many, you're just like, I don't know, there's something peaceful about it, and it's really relaxing, and I miss it. I love it.
Definitely. So we'll kind of switch things up here a bit and talk a little bit more. I want to know about how you guys met, you know, and you know how this project got started.
Yeah. So the project, let's see, which one should we do first? How we met?
That'll work.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to tell how we met, Jason? You want me to do it?
You can do it. You do it better.
All right. Yeah. So, Jason and I, we some years ago were both in a book, in an anthology, a Christmas horror anthology called Yule. That was curated by Grant Stoy.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason, the artist, actually wrote a story in it that was drawn by Heather Vaughn, and I wrote a story in it as well. And then so all the people, this was, I think it was around lockdown that we all had sort of finished all of our work. We all kind of wanted to get together as like a, like a cast party, but like digitally, because we couldn't meet in person. And so we did it via Zoom. We did like a Christmas party via Zoom to meet everybody. And so a lot of us got on there and hung out, and that's kind of, I think, where I first met Jason. And then we after that, we all just kept in touch. We're all in a group chat still, and we all talk on a daily basis.
That's cool.
This huge group of us, yeah. And so Jason and I had been talking for a while through that channel. And I think shortly before that, before we did Yule, I had this. It's one of those things where like nobody can really pinpoint where the idea came from. But I just remember being in the back of a friend's car. We were driving to karaoke one night, and I have no idea where the idea popped up from. But I had this idea of this little boy who had a pet dog, and the dog runs away, and it goes missing for a few days, and then he discovers it in his neighbor's house. And the house is occupied by a necromancer who had killed the dog. And the boy was supposed to steal a book from the house to learn necromancy, to raise his dog to fight the evil necromancer, which in itself is a cool idea.
Yeah.
But then as I sort of sat on it, in a few other life turns happened that sort of shifted the way that I wanted to tell the story. The young boy became the young girl Jessie. And then I brought it to Jason after I had enough to finally have a good sense of what the story would be. I brought it to Jason, and Jason was immediately on board. He's like, I absolutely want to do this. And then throughout the course of us sort of concepting everything together, Jason gave enough feedback. I forget whose idea it was, but the dog became this pet lizard, Bibbits, and and then Jason drew concepts of all the characters, and then we got a script together, and we did some preview pages. We got Luca Romano on board. Who I think at this moment is most currently famous for his work on Nottingham.
Yes.
We kind of ride his coattails a little bit. He's the most talented amongst all of us, I think. But yeah, so that's kind of how we met, and that's how we got everything going. And we did a Kickstarter for the first issue, and it was received really well. People seem to really love it, and now we're kickstarting issue 2 and trying as best we can to get the funding to get this second one made.
Right. Yeah. All I gotta say is poor Bibbits.
Oh yeah, spoiler for issue 1. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
yeah, I get
lost,
Yeah, so I joke with people. So Bibbits dies at the end of the first issue.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "What happens? Like, what? How could you do that to Bibbits?" And I'm just like, "Spoilers for issue 2. Necromancy is in the title of the book." So
that's good.
So there you go.
Well, that was one question I had: is what happens to Bibbits? Or is he going to come back? I mean, you do kind of say it at the end. They're like, well, if it kind of leads up to that, well, if you do this right, then yeah,
he can live again.
Exactly.
In the first few pages, I'll spoil the first few pages of issue 2 because we have them as preview pages in the Kickstarter, and so you can see them there. But yeah, in the first few pages, Jesse sort of learns the first lesson of any necromancer is to raise an undead familiar, because one of the concepts of this necromancy system that we have in the book is that you can't just raise the dead willy-nilly. Like you have to form an emotional connection. You have to bond with the deceased in order to request and ask them their permission, not their permission, but ask if they are willing to return from the dead to aid you in whatever your task is.
Yeah.
That's very easy for like a first year student, right?
Yeah.
So the first and hardest task for a new necromancer is to their familiar, their pet dies, and they have to raise it from the dead. to sort of help them in their task of being a necromancer. And so that's sort of where issue 1 kicks off. Is Bibbitz is raised from the dead, but she sort of discovers that Bibbitz isn't quite the same as he was.
All right.
Yeah, so in issue 1, Bibbitz is sort of her sort of is her backbone, right? Bibbitz is the adventurous one, the one that's Bibbitz is the one that likes to hide in the basement. Bibbitz is the one that flies into the woods. Bibbitz is the one that runs into the house and in issue 1 sort of jumps off the house to save the day and attacks Rackus and save the day a little bit. And in issue 2, she realizes Bibbitz isn't quite the same. Bibbitz is a little bit more skittish, a little bit more scared and very cautious. And Jessie is worried because her bravery comes from Bibbitz, and she's not sure how she can sort of go on without the bravery of Bibbitz. And so that's part of the struggle in issue 2 is how to see if Bibbitz can be fixed and what can be done about it.
Yeah. So you don't see a lot of cool stories about necromancers out there. So this one, it sticks out to me because first off, My Neighbor Necromancer, you're like, wait, what? It kind of throws you off a little bit, and it piques your interest at the same time. What brought you to the fascination with making a story about a necromancer?
I mean, that's a great question all on its own. I don't know. I think I've always been fascinated with horror movies in general. I mean, there's no shortage of horror movies that have people who can control the dead or the living dead,
right?
Things like that. And when I play video games, like when I was really into Diablo 2 for a while.
Okay.
The Necromancer was always my favorite class.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like there's in a lot of the wizard media, I guess, like you have wizards that cast fireballs and you have wizards that can control ice or what have you. But like the ones that can control the dead are always evil for some reason. And that was part of the reason why I decided to make the necromancer that Jessie initially meets to not be an evil, is because like why do they have to be inherently evil just because they communicate with the dead? That's something that I think we all wish we could do, regardless of our alignment, right? Our good evil alignment. And so like I wanted to see where that would go. Like if there's a kindly necromancer, like how would that work? What would they want to do?
Right.
And then it kind of spiraled from there, I think.
Yeah. So when it comes to the artistic side of this, Jason, where do you draw inspiration from when it comes to your style for this comic?
That's a good question. I think with this specifically, it has to walk like a fine line between being like appropriate for younger readers, because we are trying to have it be like a YA, like young adult kind of thing.
Yeah.
But not to the point where it like looks too cutesy or anything.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to go like full like horror movie style with like lots of gore or anything, but I do want it to be like a little bit like approaching that line but still age appropriate. So I guess I look a lot at like Mignola, which is probably like an obvious thing to go to, which is not saying that he does like YA stuff, but the way that he composes pages, like Mike Mignola composes pages, is it's very graphic and but graphic in terms of like, block shapes and
yeah,
it leaves some stuff up to the imagination.
Right.
And so I like looking at that. And like pulling from like I don't know, like different artists that I like. I'm like blanking on names and stuff, but like which is like, yeah, I pull from different artists I like. Great answer. But yeah, like it's I use a lot of photo reference.
Okay.
I was looking at, I like had to find references of like the one Raven character that the bad necromancer has. I had to find like kind of scraggly looking birds.
Yeah.
And so I use a lot of that to sort of stylize from reality a bit, I guess.
Right.
And then kind of mix it around. I don't know. I have trouble with what my style actually looks like, because a lot of times I try to cater it some level to what the story needs.
Yeah.
So everything I do feels like a little bit different, I guess.
I get that. I will say that there's one thing that I really like, and I noticed right off the bat, and that's the very first page. You know, it's very dark and gritty, and you can tell how much the color scheme lightens up when it goes to Jessie at her house,
right?
Compared to, you know, I believe they're in the woods and everything. Whenever you first see the first page, you know, and so I love that, how you can tell how much of a dark aura there is compared to this scene, and then moving on to the next one, how there's that big contrast there.
Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that, because I tried really hard throughout the book to like focus in on what the scene needed for everything that was happening in it. So like that first page needed to feel like dark and kind of spooky and like what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to have like the big contrast of, and now it's happy and everything's cool. But I think that like if we didn't have, credit to Dillon for having that page in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think that sets up expectations in a really appropriate way. I think without that page, the story going where it goes later in the book wouldn't necessarily be jarring, but it like gives you a little teaser of what's to come. So the the happiness isn't going to last, I guess. Yeah.
I think that first page. I might be misremembering this, but I think that first page was actually added on relatively late in the process when we all kind of realized that, like, wow, this takes a hard left turn when she gets into the woods and there's necromancy. And like my initially thought was like, good, like I want there to be like a big twist, and we're all like, no, but it's too hard of a turn. Like this is going to throw everybody off, and it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And so I credit to the entire team for making me and the rest of us, I guess, realize it. It was that first page does a lot of heavy lifting to set up expectations, including that the world of necromancy that she will find in herself in later is not this bright sterilized world that she lives in on the second page.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even I think it's in maybe like the third or fourth panel, she's already killing something to raise an army, you know. And, you know, you're like, oh, well, this, you know, it's going there in a hurry, you know, when it comes to these people. And then it's, you know, Bibbits, you know, immediately in the next bit. And it's just, I love how much of a contrast that showed there. And putting that in at the front, I think was, you know, an amazing thing to do there.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Hey everybody, I've got a really cool event to tell you guys about, and that's the Tulsa Comic Book Swap Halloween. And it's happening on October 27th at the Glenpool Conference Center in Glenpool, Oklahoma, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and you do not want to miss it. They've got an incredible lineup of guests, including Justin Nimmo from Power Rangers, Paul E. Niemeyer, the original artist behind Mortal Kombat, Dr. Hassan Rashid from Marvel Studios' Black Panther, Tammy Aaron, who played Pippi Longstocking, and James Hostler, creator of the Bobcat comic book. But that's not all. You'll find everything from comic books, anime, toys, video games, pop culture items, VHS tapes, records, vintage clothing, and art. It's all indoors with free, easy parking. Also, Tulsa Rolling Video Games will be there, offering free play on PS5, Xbox, Switch, and much more. Plus, there'll be food trucks, giveaways, a cosplay contest with prizes and trophies, panels, workshops, and even indie short film showcase screenings. And for all of you Star Wars fans out there, the 501st Garrison Legion and Sisterhood of the Traveling Bantha podcast will be there too. This event is growing bigger every year, driven by the amazing father-daughter team behind it. And you've got to be there to be a part of it. The admission is only $5, and kids 12 and under, they get in free. So make sure to mark your calendars for October 27th at the Glenpool Conference Center in Glenpool, Oklahoma. And you can follow them on Instagram at Tulsa Comic Book Swap or Nicholas Gulcher Comics for updates. For more info, check out their website as well, tulsacomicbookswap.square.site. So when it comes to Jesse in the book, so there was a spell, I'm guessing, that was, keeping people out from where the necromancer lived. And she was able to go, it almost looks like it was a portal, I guess you could say, or something like that it looked like she went through. Now, in this next book, are you going to be explaining, how she was able to break that spell? Or is it just going to go with adventure, or how is that going to be playing out?
Yeah, so in the second issue, I mean, we're not going to one of the goals of the book that we're trying our best to avoid is heavy exposition. And so
Gotcha.
we're trying, one of my goals, I always try to make my dialogue as light as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And with something like necromancy, that with a system that there we have actual rules for, it's really difficult not to just send a wall of text that's going to explain, oh, this is how this works, and this is how
right.
that works.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in the second issue, there will be a one or two lines of dialogue for how and why. Jason, the text within the balloons that they're doing spells for, like the infernal writing, when they're doing their spells, can be translated.
Oh,
and
okay.
you can if you translate it, it will give some vague indication of exactly what that spell is and what it's doing.
Okay.
The spell, but to save some work for the translation, effectively the spell that Cyrano has cast is one, to make the house hidden, make it invisible.
Right.
The second one is to protect the house from harm, the house and its inhabitants from harm. And so nothing that intends to cause harm can cross the barrier. No one can see it, but nothing that can cause harm can cross the barrier. And Jesse very clearly does not mean harm.
Yeah.
And part of the spell as well is there is a circle of bones that lays beneath the leaves around the house, that keeps it there. And so Rackus in the first issue makes mention, like, the bones have been disturbed, and so that's what happens in that panel when Jesse trips on them, is she breaks that circle of bones and basically dispels the entire thing.
Okay.
And that's what sort of leads Rackus to the house.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. I like that. And I didn't even, I picked up, I remember her saying that the bones were disturbed, but I didn't pick up on that's what that was. So that's really cool.
So that's the other thing too, is like, I always get sort of frustrated when an author does not trust the audience. There's a very high risk of trusting the audience too much, and then you are not being clear enough.
Right.
And so there will be some small bit more of explanation of how it happens. Because again, we don't want to leave people up the creek without a paddle, or
right.
In the middle of the ocean without a sail or direction. And so we'll get into some smaller details in the next issue for sure.
Okay. And I did have this down here. What language is it that they're speaking? And you said that there's a way to decipher it. And to expand on that question, did you guys develop this language yourself?
I don't think so. So the language itself is, I wrote it in English. The spell was written in English. All right, so let's take it back a little bit further. So when I was developing the system of necromancy in the book, I pulled a lot of inspiration from a book called Infernal Rites, which is a translation of I think a 16th century legitimate necromancy manual. Called like the CLM for something of rather, but its shorthand name is the Munich Necromancy Manual.
Okay.
And so like there are actual spells in there and like actual sigils that you're supposed to be able to use, and ingredients for spells.
Yeah.
So I took a lot of inspiration from that. I borrowed some of the language a little bit from it. And so what they did in the Infernal Rites book is they translated the Latin speech into English. I borrowed some phrases from those translations. And then sort of made up the rest to make it fit my needs for the system that's in the book.
Yeah.
And then Jason, I think, is using it's a font swap, right, Jason?
Yeah, it's not. I forget exactly what the name of the font is at the moment, but it's one of the Blambot fonts that I'm using, and I've kind of just adjusted not the characters themselves, but like the spacing between them, so that it's not just like I basically the way I do it when I'm lettering is I letter digitally, so I make the balloon and then I'll put the text box over the balloon and I'll like kind of crunch the spacing of the letters down.
Gotcha.
So if you look at the balloons, if anyone who's looked at the balloons will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They're kind of like it's filling up the entire space of the balloon, and then basically I just put a mask over the text box layer so that it fills seamlessly along the panel the border of the balloon.
Yes.
And I just like copy what Dillon has in kind of like sequence. Like
gotcha.
Over again.
So like the language itself underneath the font, right? Underneath the font swap is English, and so if you're good at cryptograms, like you can solve it. You can find out what the spell words are.
That's cool. Okay. Yeah. All right. I like that. That it brings people in a little more, you know, it gives them, it's an interaction within, already a cool story to allow people to do that.
Yeah. This is the first time I think I've actually mentioned that out loud.
Yeah. I don't think we've discussed that.
Yeah. We've never discussed
it.
I've always secretly kind of hoped that somebody's going to discover it and then like let us know that they solved it on their own.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone who's listening wants to do that, I would be super excited if you tweeted at us or mentioned that you figured it out. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of jump over a little bit again and talk about the Kickstarter side of this, because I know that you guys are trying to get this book funded, and you have, I think when this episode drops, you've got when is the last day that the Kickstarter will be going?
October 3rd. I think it ends, I believe, at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on October 3rd.
Okay. So how many books have y'all actually done when it comes to Kickstarter?
How many have I done?
Yeah, either one of you.
Yeah, so I've done in total 3.
Okay.
I did a Kickstarter for the first issue of Sweetheart, which was a book I did. There was a series, it was a 5-issue series.
Okay.
That after the first issue was picked up to be published.
Yeah.
And then the second one was My Neighbor Necromancer #1, and now this is the third one.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess you could count Yule, technically, because we were kind of part of that, but we weren't running it. Yeah. So I've been, I guess mainly it's My Neighbor Necromancer #1 and this one, and then it was through Zoop, not Kickstarter, but Binary C #1, which was another book that I did with Graham Blackaby, who also goes by Captain Midnight on YouTube. So I did that one. So I guess also, I guess 3 for me also. Yeah.
Okay. I'm starting to notice that crowdfunding has become a very bigger thing when it comes to comic books. I mean, I know people who, have wrote for Marvel and DC, and they do the crowdfunding as well when it comes to some of their other projects.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cost prohibitive a lot of times to get a book made.
Right.
And more so, like, especially on the art team side of it.
Yeah.
I fortunately, there a lot more focus has gone toward paying artists what they deserve to be paid. And so the times of having an artist vastly reduced or not be paid at all to make a book in hopes of a profit if the book sells well are kind of starting to fade away.
Right.
And so Kickstarter takes away a lot of that, and it guarantees that the people who are making it are going to be paid, what they deserve and their worth for it.
Right.
And so I want to say that that's part of it. I think that's a big push, is that people realize that this comics are hard work to make.
They are.
And luckily there's people who appreciate comics for what there are, and so we're all very lucky that the Kickstarting avenue is viable because people love comics, and because the people love comics, then the people who love making comics can make them, and that's
right.
I think that's amazing. That's great.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is for a lot of creators and stuff, this is their passion, and you're presenting this to them and saying, hey, I want to show you my passion. And so part of Kickstarter, the cool thing is you get to give them a description. You get to show them, hey, this is a little bit of what this is going to be about. And you kind of get to find those people that are like-minded when it comes to you, that want to see those stories. And I love that about having stuff like crowdfunding, to where you can put your stuff out there and people say, yeah, I like that. I dig that. I'm going to back this project.
Yeah, definitely. I think it also allows you to have kind of more niche stories to find like your particular audience, which is really nice. You don't have to go through anybody specifically. And then, sometimes if you do it that way, a publisher will notice and be like, oh, you know what? I think this is viable, and thank you for showing us.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not thank you for showing this, but we would like to exploit this because it seems like popular.
Right.
But like what Dillon was saying about Tweetheart, that can be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. So when you guys aren't doing comic books, what do you like to do?
When am I not doing comics?
I take really long walks every day.
Okay.
Like I basically, because I work from home, because I'm fortunate enough to do comics full time.
Yeah.
Or illustration full time. I will basically give myself like a fake commute. By I'll kind of clock out for the day, take a long walk, come back and have dinner, which is like a nice way to kind of clear my head, which I don't know if that is, I guess that is what I do for fun. Maybe that's really boring, but I really look forward to doing that every day. So
I actually know a couple of other artists and stuff that are closer down here that that's kind of what they do too. They're full-time, artists, and they always take pictures of their long walks.
Yeah.
So Dillon, do you
yeah, sorry, yeah. I was still trying to think of when am I not making comics? So I've been, since the pandemic, I've been addicted to a video game called Hunt Showdown.
Okay.
And I think every spare chance that I get, I'm often playing that game. And it's like it takes place in like the 1800s, and like this plague has attacked the Louisiana Bayou, and so there's a lot of zombies, but there's also like these special enemies that you have to attack. But the game is basically like a big game of capture the flag, where you have to kill a monster and then escape with the bounty that it drops.
Yeah.
And all the other players on the map are trying to kill you and take that bounty from you for themselves.
That sounds fun.
It's a lot of fun. And like, I don't know. Jason has heard me gush about this game so many times in the group chat that we're in, but Yeah, that's one of those things that like I've I've even done the cringe thing of like tweeting at Crytek and the Hunt Showdown Twitter account and be like, let me write a comic for this.
That's great.
Let me complete the circle and make the thing that I do when I'm not making comics the thing that I do while I'm making comics.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I also go on walks with my dog. We have a pet dog. His name's Rutabaga.
Rutabaga. Okay.
Yeah. And so I take him for long walks just to decompress and stuff, and obviously get him some exercise.
Right on. I need to do that more often. I'm married to a baker, so I need to walk more.
I mean, I think getting a pet that needs walks is kind of a hack for that, because then you have no choice. You have to walk the dog.
Yeah, so I have 2 dogs, but they're lazy.
Oh no!
So I've got a Rottweiler.
Oh, they betrayed you.
Yeah, it just wants to sit there and eat snacks all the time. So. But yeah, I mean, I've talked about it. Maybe do like a family walk even, but I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, we all have our things that you got to do when. So that game that you were talking about, is it a PC game?
It's on PC. I played on PlayStation. It's on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC.
Oh, it's on all of them. Okay.
Yeah, it's on everything.
Okay, cool.
Highly recommend it. They just did a big patch for it, and so like it's got a huge graphics update and a new map to play on. I mean,
nice.
I never want to get too, like, if you get me going on this game, I'll never stop. And so I always try and give really sparse details and then be like, all right, that's my obsession. That's my hyper fixation. Yeah.
So I've just got a couple more questions for you guys before I get you off of here. And I actually asked this when I had Andrew and Flobo on here too. If you were talking to somebody like you were at the convention, give me your spiel whenever you're trying to sell somebody on this comic. What would you say to them?
Yeah, so the luckily just had a lot of practice with this.
Yeah.
So My Neighbor Necromancer is about a young girl who discovers a kindly necromancer living in the woods behind her house. And now she's alerted the forces of evil to his location, and now she has to learn to raise the dead to save the world.
All right.
Is the short and quick of it. Jack Foster, I think, does a fun one line for it. It's like a gothic Studio Ghibli with dead things or something like that. Like
yeah,
it's like My Neighbor Totoro by name of the dead or undead or something like that. But yeah, Jack's got a really good one. I keep meaning to look back at what he said so that I can incorporate that somehow, because it's really good.
Yeah, right on. Do you guys have any other projects that you're working on right now as well?
I have a couple. I just kind of did a re-release of a book called Starset Delivery, which was previously titled Spaceman and Bloater.
Okay.
It's a book that I do everything for. I write, draw, color, letter, all of it. So it's that version of it. It's basically a slice of life sci-fi with some action in it, following a galactic courier and his like space dog, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kind of get into hijinks. So there's like a couple short stories in it and a longer one at the front, and some behind the scenes stuff. And I also there will be another issue of Binary Sea, which I mentioned earlier. And then I also do a project with this doctor in Seattle named Dr. David Suskind, who's like a pediatric gastroenterologist.
Oh.
And so we've been working on we made a comic in like 2017, 2018 called Professor Nimble, which is about basically inflammatory bowel disease. He uses it with his patients, his kid patients, to like teach them about their condition, basically. And so that's been really fun. And we currently just finished another one, and it's been translated into a bunch of different languages. So I've been spending some time recently, like getting the translated scripts and like relettering the books into different languages. So that's been really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently mostly just continuing to to script out the rest of My Neighbor Necromancer. There's a project that I just started piecing together. I think this is the first time I've said it out loud to other people as well, but I've started just piecing together something with Alex Cormack, who just finished The Devil Wears My Face for Mad Cave.
Okay.
We're doing a cool horror thing that I don't think I'm able to talk too much about.
Okay.
But that's sort of those are the two main projects that I have going right now.
All right. And if people want to follow you online, how can they do that?
I'm on all the social medias, everything except for Tumblr somehow. You can find me on all of them at Dill Gilbertson. On Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. I'm even on Hive. If everybody remembers Hive still.
Oh, I forgot about that. I thought it went down.
No, I'm pretty sure it still exists. It's been a while since I've opened it, but
okay.
Man, yeah, but yeah, I'm on all of them.
Yeah, I'm also on all of them except I think for Threads. I don't think I ever joined Threads.
Okay.
But I'm at Jason Piperberg on all of them. I think Facebook I'm at Jason Piperberg Illustration, but any of those tags I'll probably pop up if I have the account. So yeah, follow me on there, and then you can go to my website jasonpiperberg.com.
And then if you want to find both of us in the same place, you go to necrocomic.com. That'll bring you the Kickstarter for My Neighbor Necromancer Issue 2.
Very
awesome.
Nice segue. Good job.
Do you guys have any final thoughts before I get you off of here?
Please go back to Kickstarter. I think at the time of this recording, we've got about 9 days left, and we have a bit over $6,000 still to go. So it's gonna be a huge haul, but it's certainly not impossible.
Right.
We have t-shirts, we've got books, we have a collectible hanging map from issue 2 that's gonna be one of 4 that's gonna show you the entire world that Jesse and the necromancers are sort of operating in. Jason is doing pet commissions, and so if you have pets, your dogs, for instance, if you want Jason to draw them into the style and world of My Neighbor Necromancer, we have a pet commission tier for that one. That one seemed to be pretty good, pretty popular. We had to add more of those because they went out in the first couple days.
Oh wow. So
if you're interested in that, please again go to necrocomic.com and help us out. Help us make the book that we're so desperate to make.
Yes. Definitely. I really want to draw this next one.
All right, guys. Well, it's been a blast talking to you. I am going to talk to you for a few more minutes after we end this recording, but we're going to go ahead and say bye here now. And once again, thank you guys for coming on here and talking to me tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Clay Readymade here with Diamond State Wrestling, Northwest Arkansas's premier wrestling promotion. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, as well as subscribing to our YouTube channel, where you can find all the action-packed action that only Diamond State Wrestling can provide.
Generic audio commercial, Zio to Hero, take 43. Hey listener, it looks like you're having fun over here listening to insert generic name here. If you like what you're listening over here, come on over to the Zio to Hero podcast, where you can join Billy and myself, the bulk and skull of podcasting. If you want to listen to Ranger Powers and you want to go into and talk about anime, Gundam. Oh, what did I make them wrong?
You're supposed to say Zio to Hero is the best, and Billy and Jim as bulk and skull of podcasting is funnier than any other show out there. And you didn't say Power Rangers right. Get out of here. Do it again. It.
Fine. Generic audio commercial. Zio de Hero. Take number 44. Hey, listener, it looks like you're having fun over here listening to insert generic name here.
God.
Oh, come on.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Dawn.
And if you've ever watched a TV show and thought to yourself, oh my god, that season finale plot twist was absolutely bonkers.
Or seen a movie and thought, wow, I need to talk to somebody about this train wreck immediately.
Then we think you'll fit right in with our podcast, I Hate It, Let's Watch It. We watch TV shows like Riverdale and Emily in Paris.
And movies like Deep Water, Killer Sofa, Rubber, and Deadly Illusions. And we give them the total rinsing they deserve.
It's basically group therapy for movie masochists. So come check us out wherever you stream podcasts.
All right, folks. I hope that you enjoyed that episode with Dillon and Jason from My Neighbor Necromancer. I'm really looking forward to reading issue 2 of this, so make sure that you go out there and you support them. As this episode drops, I think they have about 3 days left on that Kickstarter campaign, so make sure that you go out there and check it out, share it, contribute to it, whatever you can do. Make sure that you go ahead and do that, because this is a really cool story, and I would love to see what happens next in this one. So next week's episode, you're just going to have to look on social media to see who will be on next, but I will be announcing them by Friday, so make sure that you go and check that out then. But in the meantime, make sure that you check out my podcast networks that I'm a part of, the OIW Podcast Network and the Zero to Hero Podcast Network. They both have amazing shows, and make sure that you check them out. I also have merch out. If you would like a t-shirt or a hoodie or something of that nature, make sure that you check out my merch site. I have it in my show notes, and it is on my link tree. Also want to say thank you to DCure for creating my ending theme song for me. If you like the way that sounds, make sure that you go out there and you follow him with everything that he does. He creates all kinds of really cool music. He also does some pretty cool videos on TikTok that are pretty funny. So make sure that you go out there and follow him as well. So as I'm recording this, this is the week that I will be going to McAlester, Oklahoma for HallowsCon. So if you're hearing this now and you want to come see me, come out to McAlester, Oklahoma for a really cool con that they've got going on there. They've got all kinds of really amazing guests, and I'm very excited to be there. Also, Original Geek is going to be there. It's going to be me and Nick both at that show, so we're going to have both booths right beside each other, so make sure that you come out and say hello to us both. Also, while you're listening to this, make sure that you check out my brother podcast, and that is If You Give a Dad a YouTube channel and If You Give a Dad a Cosplay. If you're looking to get into making your own YouTube channel, if you're looking to get into doing a cosplay, check those two out. They both have YouTube channels that you can go, and they give you tips and tricks on how to do those things. I will have those in my show notes, but make sure that you check those out as well. So you hear me talking about social media, and you're probably like, well, how do I follow you? Well, you can go to my link tree, and it should be at the top. You'll see all the different icons for the different social media sites that I'm a part of. You can also find my email address there to send me an email to give me suggestions. I like hearing from you guys. I love hearing from you guys. If you have something you want to tell me, make sure that you send me an email. And also, it is giveadatapodcast@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you, so send me a line if you'd like to. And if you could also do me a favor, rate and review this podcast. The more people that do that, the more likely I am to be recommended to somebody else. And I would love to see this show grow. And I appreciate everyone who has already done that. And for those who haven't, please go out there and do that for me. I would really appreciate it. Also, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Wherever it is you're listening, make sure that you do that and hit that notification bell. That way you're notified when a new episode of iGadapp drops. So, we've come to the end of another episode of If You Give a Dad a Podcast, and it is time for Billy's favorite part of the show, and that is Dad Joke of the Week. So why was the skeleton army scared to fight? Because they didn't have any guts.
Bro.
All right. I love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Room rounded, but I got a podcast on. He calls us beautiful people, then tells us who we have on. The best part of my day, though we're blocked out in my pods. Tell my friends all about it so that they follow along. And the host is kinda nerdy, but guess what I am as well. I don't feel so alone, and I began walking out of my shell. Heard a story, I need a connection I haven't felt. I'll be looking for the next one, till then farewell. It's the podcast for me. Have it on, better go see. Listen closely, download and tune in remotely. It's the podcast for me. Have it on, better go see.
This podcast is part of the OIW Podcasting Network.
All right, cool, sweet, baby Jesus. Okay, cool.